In 1999, the New South Wales state government opened an official file. Not a tourism file, not a folklore archive, a file maintained by the Department of Primary Industries, cataloging reports of a large black cat moving through the forests west of Sydney. The file has never been closed. 26 years and 4 government-commissioned inquiries later, the department's public position remains the same. No conclusive evidence exists that a big cat lives in the Blue Mountains. That sentence has been technically true in every year it has been issued. It has also been issued across the same period in which a teenager was hospitalized after what he described as a feline attack. An alpaca was found with 7-centimeter puncture wounds through its skull. A sitting state MP publicly accused the department of editing its own findings before release, and a driver reported watching what she called a giant jaguar cross the road in front of her car. The statement and the record exist side by side. They have for a quarter of a century. The Grosse Vale Group has logged sightings since 1998. Their running count now exceeds 500. Reports have come from bushwalkers, but also from a NSW police force detective, an officer of the Department of Agriculture, rural fire service crews working on the ground, and pilots looking down from above. These are not people especially prone to mistaking a domestic cat for something else at 40 meters. The consistency of what they describe, not brown, not gray, not a dog, specifically a large black cat with a long tail, is the detail that has kept the file open for this long. The question this raises is not whether people in the Blue Mountains believe they have seen something. Clearly they have, for over a century. The real question is what the government's own investigations actually found, why the record stayed inconclusive across 4 separate inquiries, and what has been happening in the years since the last one quietly closed. The origin theories are, at minimum, mechanically plausible. One holds that big cats were kept as mascots by American servicemen stationed in Australia during the Second World War and released or abandoned when units shipped out at the end of the war. Another points to traveling circuses of the early 20th century, which are documented to have kept exotic cats and are known to have lost animals during transport and touring seasons. A third, less discussed publicly, involves a black market in exotic pets that operated in New South Wales for decades under minimal regulation. None of these theories require a native population. They require one thing: a small founding number of animals released into terrain large enough and empty enough of people to let them persist unnoticed for generations. The Blue Mountains region supplies that terrain without much difficulty. Over 1 million hectares of sandstone gorge, eucalypt forest, and near vertical escarpment. Most of it never walked by anyone at all. The government's own scientists took the possibility seriously before they were told to stop discussing it. In 1999, Kevin Sheridan, then head of the Department of Agriculture, wrote directly to the Director General of the National Parks and Wildlife Service, requesting a formal report, citing what he called a large number of attacks in the region. The resulting study, conducted by Dr. Johannes Bauer of New South Wales Agriculture, concluded the presence of a big cat was likely. In response, the department was ordered to deploy a tracker to identify the animal. What it actually sent into the field was one agricultural officer and a German shepherd. By 2001, Freedom of Information requests confirmed the state was maintaining an active file on the sightings, the same file opened 2 years earlier and never publicly acknowledged until forced into daylight. From 2001 to 2003, the district veterinarian for the Moss Vale Rural Lands Protection Board examined scat and hair samples collected in the field and concluded a big cat likely occupied the area. A second commissioned report followed in 2003, requested by the mayor of Hawkesbury Council. Its conclusion: no conclusive evidence, but more likely than not that such an animal existed. That phrase, more likely than not, is doing a great deal of quiet work. It is not a denial. It is a probability assessment from a government body with every institutional incentive to close the file, not extend it further. In 2005, Bill Atkinson, technical manager of NSW Agriculture, told the Sydney Morning Herald he had been personally instructed not to discuss the subject with press. A representative of Hawkesbury Council stated on the record around the same time that the council held, in his words, genuine concern about big cats in the area. 3 years later, a third report was commissioned. It reached the same conclusion as the one before it, more likely than not, and was then edited before public release, with that specific conclusion altered. The change was significant enough that allegations of a cover-up followed in the press and have never been fully retracted or fully confirmed by anyone involved. A fourth report, in 2013, broke the pattern. Its author, invasive species expert John Parks, concluded there was no evidence of a big cat in the Blue Mountains, a harder finding than any of the three that came before it. But Parks later told the ABC privately that he did believe a small population was possible in the region. The public conclusion and the private position of the man who wrote it were not, in the end, the same document. Ray Williams, the state member of parliament for Hawkesbury at the time, condemned the report publicly as dismissive and, in his own word, dangerous. That is where the official record stops. It is not where the sightings stopped. In 2011, a pet alpaca was mauled to death on a property in Bilpin. The autopsy found puncture wounds 7 centimeters deep in the skull. A report filed by the Hawkesbury Area Ranger concluded the injuries were consistent with a large cat rather than a dog or dingo. In 2018, television presenter Grant Denier and his wife, producer Cheryl Rogers, reported sighting the animal on their own rural property, an account that reached national press not because Denier needed the publicity, but because it came from someone with no evident motive to fabricate a cryptid story. In 2020, video footage surfaced from the grounds of Sydney Adventist Hospital in Warunga, showing what multiple outlets described as a large black shape moving across open ground at dusk. That same year, the anonymous Instagram collective Blue Mountains Explore published photographs of what they identified as big cat tracks recorded during a mountain trek, the beginning of a social media presence that has since grown into one of the most active documentation efforts on the subject anywhere in the country. Between 2021 and 2024, the Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development logged 9 further reports, sightings, and unusual feline footprints submitted through official channels, the same channels that fed the original 1999 file. One of those 9 reports came from a driver who told investigators she had seen what she described, in her own words, as a giant jaguar crossing the road ahead of her car. In 2024, new sightings were reported near Echo Point in Katoomba, with several tourists independently photographing a large dark shape at distance across the valley. In early 2025, a tradesman working on a property near the escarpment discovered a set of footprints in his back garden with a stride length he estimated at close to 2 meters between each print, large enough that the story ran on national television before any wildlife agency had assessed the ground itself. The search did not slow down after that. By 2025, the collective behind Blue Mountains Explore, a group of roughly 14 searchers built around adventurer George Kaplan, with a social media following now past 300,000, had spent over 4 years combing the range and had shifted to searching 5 days a week for the 18 months prior, running systematic grid searches through known hotspots like Medlow Bath and the terrain around Pulpit Rock, backed by trail cameras and audio recorders set to catch cat vocalizations. The combined sighting count, once cited at over 500, now sits past 560. It has not leveled off. It has climbed every single year the file has stayed open, including the current one. The department's misidentification explanation is not always wrong, and it's worth being honest about the one case where it's airtight. A widely circulated sighting from the region was later confirmed to be Toby, a large rescued domestic cat known to range across the exact stretch of bushland where he'd been photographed. A clean, fully resolved false positive, the kind skeptics point to as proof the entire phenomenon collapses under scrutiny. It doesn't extend that far. Toby accounts for one report, traced to one known animal, inside a database of more than 560. He does not explain the 7-centimeter puncture wounds in an alpaca's skull, a New South Wales police detective's account, or a 2-meter stride pattern found in a suburban garden this year. One confirmed misidentification narrows the field. It does not close the file. None of these incidents, taken individually, proves anything at all. Collectively, they describe an animal that has been reported continuously by people with no connection to one another across every single year, in which the government's official position was that no conclusive evidence existed. The gap between those two facts is not especially mysterious once you break it into its actual components, and there are 3 of them. The first is coverage. The Blue Mountains region spans well over 1 million hectares of largely inaccessible terrain. Sandstone escarpments, deep gorges, forest that has never been formally surveyed for large predators, because the region has never officially been considered to contain any. There is no camera trap network here comparable to what wildlife agencies deploy for species they already acknowledge exist. A landscape this size, observed by almost nobody in any systematic way, does not produce photographic proof of anything, regardless of what actually moves through it at night. The second is classification. A report of a large black cat is filed as an unconfirmed sighting before any physical investigation occurs, because the department's working assumption is that no such animal is present in the first place. That assumption then determines how much resource is allocated to the follow-up, which in most recorded cases is none at all. The logic runs in a closed loop. The file stays inconclusive because it was never designed to become conclusive, and each new sighting is measured against a default answer rather than against the physical evidence sitting in front of the investigator. The third is preservation. A large, largely nocturnal predator dying in remote escarpment country does not leave a body for anyone to find. There is no caller, no tracking signal, no research team on standby to recover a carcass before decomposition, and scavengers remove every trace of it, the way there is for the collared mountain lion populations studied for decades in parts of the United States. An animal that lives its entire life in terrain nobody walks will, in almost every case, die in terrain nobody walks either. The absence of a body is not evidence the animal never existed. It is the entirely predictable outcome of where it spent its life. Put those 3 factors together: a survey footprint too small for the size of the terrain, an intake process that filters reports before it investigates them, and a landscape that swallows physical evidence as completely as it swallows the animal itself, and an inconclusive government file after 4 separate inquiries stops looking like proof of absence. It starts looking like the structurally expected result of how the search was actually conducted from the start. The department's language has not meaningfully changed since 1999. No conclusive evidence exists that a big cat lives in the Blue Mountains. That statement remains accurate in the narrow sense the department intends it. It describes what has been formally confirmed, what has been captured on an official camera, what carcass has been recovered and identified in a laboratory. By that specific standard, the statement is correct and has been correct every year it has been issued. It does not describe what a police detective reported seeing, what a driver called a giant jaguar, what left 7-centimeter punctures through an alpaca's skull, or what left a 2-meter stride across a tradesman's back garden earlier this year. Those things are not part of the official record, not because they didn't happen, but because the official record was never built with the coverage, the intake process, or the recovery capacity to capture them. The file opened in 1999 is still open today. It has outlasted 4 inquiries, 1 alleged cover-up, and every explanation anyone has offered to close it for good. The sightings have not stopped, and the terrain that has apparently hidden this animal for over a century has given no indication, this year or any other, that it intends to give up what it's holding.